Welcome, intuitive healers. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me for our astrology hour. During this hour, we're going to be going over the astrology love reading for Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade. This is the Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade astrology synastry love reading, which is a Scorpio and Capricorn love dynamic reading. How's everybody doing? Happy Sunday. I'm very excited to do this reading. This is a couple that I admire very much. I've admired them for a very long time. To me, they seem like love warriors. They seem like people that really fought for their love and people that were very committed to their relationship. And obviously, they've been through a lot to be able to keep their relationship going. It has not been an easy ride. And that's precisely what makes them the most equipped to tell the rest of us about how to do love. Because, you know, love is a verb, right? It's not just a word. It's something that you do, and it's not always easy to do it. It's not always easy to give it. It's not always easy to receive it. You know, these two have been together now for quite a while. So I'm hoping that through this reading, we can learn more about Gabrielle Union's astrology, the Dwyane Wade astrology, learn more about their synastry as a couple. I just pulled up their chart before logging on here because I like to have an authentic experience when I'm doing the readings. So I've learned that there are a Capricorn and Scorpio mix. So this is going to be a Capricorn Scorpio compatibility reading, which is a couple that I see a lot in love because, you know, there are lots of similar energies here with Scorpio and Capricorn when it comes to how they do love. This is an astrology compatibility reading for a celebrity couple. It's going to be a synastry video reading. And before we get into their actual reading, I want to cut past the headlines and look at their 14 plus years together to have a little bit of a timeline of their relationship, you know, basic, you know, timeline. You know, it's going to be just like getting a little bit of history, and then we're going to dive into their chart after that, okay? So D. Wade and Gabrielle Union have been together for quite a while, okay? Let's go over some specific dates. So according to Google, they actually got together and they met initially in 2007, but it took a couple years for that initial meeting to actually develop into, you know, a romance or a romantic connection that they, you know, wanted to pursue together. So let's see. Let me pull up their history here. How's everyone doing? And thanks to you guys that are coming to hang out. I appreciate it. This is going to be an hour for us to just get into the specifics. So, Dwyane Wade, relationship, history. All right, we're going to pull that up and take a good look at that. So we have a little bit of history with them in terms of their history. Okay, so 2007, they met at a Super Bowl party. And then in 2009 was when they had their first public appearance together. He brought her to a charity event as his guest. And that's when people started like talking about the fact that they were going to be a couple. So that was a little bit of a soft launch. And then they started like being seen together at All-Star games. And then rumors started swirling that they were actually a couple. So thanks to you guys that are sharing the live and inviting more friends to come join us as we go over the astrology love reading of Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade. I love this couple very much because they've been through so much together to be able to keep their love together. And I think they're a true testament to what it looks like to be able to withstand the heat of growing, you know, together in partnership. Okay. So in 2012, they were on the cover of Essence magazine, and they both agreed that they didn't want to rush back into another marriage. They didn't think it was smart because at that point, the two of them had been divorced. So they were both previously married. When Dwyane Wade met Gabrielle Union, he was actually newly divorced, and he was still dealing with some of the troubles of his of the relationship with his ex. Even though the relationship was over with his ex, Allegedly, she was still causing some disruption in his life, specifically when it came to their children. As you know, they have several children together. So that was a little bit of a challenge. So naturally, Gabrielle was not very excited about diving into a relationship with somebody who's still having a little bit of, a chaotic history, okay? So 2012, on the cover of Essence magazine, they both talked about learning from their past pain of the relationship. They wanted forever with somebody, but they didn't want to repeat getting into a relationship that didn't work out and then ending up getting divorced again, okay? So basically, they agreed they were going to take it slow. 2013, life got busy. She started filming more. He started working more. They took a break in the relationship. During that break, he fathered another child, Xavier, with another woman, okay? Gabrielle later described that this information coming out as devastating. It was kind of like a truth that therapy couldn't heal. It was so deeply hurtful for her to have to accept the fact that while they were on a break, he literally had another human life that he created with someone else, okay? So that was in 2013. That was a real crisis in their relationship, as it would be in any person's relationship. Most people, when they take a break from their partnership, they don't expect that that partner is gonna come back with a story about having a baby, so that added a lot of pressure to their relationship, allegedly, according to what she reported. But then later in 2013, they reconciled. They worked it out. They found their way back to each other. They decided to recommit to each other in a conscious way. They were scared, but they were still in love. So in December of that same year, he proposed. Dwyane Wade proposed, and he involved his children in proposing to her. In August of 2014, they got married. So a year later, they decided to get officially legally married. They tied the knot on August 30th in the romantic Miami ceremony. Everything came together very beautifully. They shared their love, they shared their family, and as you know, they are a blended family because Dwyane Wade had, several children with his ex-wife before they got divorced. Fast forward, from 2014 when they got married, fast forward to 2018. In 2018, November 2018, he brought daughter Kavya into their lives via a surrogate, which was a dream that Gabrielle Union had been having for a long time because she struggled with fertility issues and miscarriages, okay? And I think just from a feminine woman perspective, him having that child while they were on that break was deeply painful for her, especially knowing that she later on ended up having all these fertility issues trying to conceive a child of her own. But luckily, thank God, they were able to successfully have Kavya, their child together, even though she wasn't able to physically carry that child. All right, so that's 2018. So beyond just the basics of, parenting, blended family, Gabrielle basically stepped into the role of the stepmom for his older children, Zaire, Zaya, and also a nephew that they were raising together. So it took a lot of work for her to earn the trust of the children, slowly and organically. They openly navigated all these parenting decisions, parenting tensions, because we have this ex-wife of Dwyane Wade who has very strong opinions about her children, and he's still dealing with legal issues with her and her level of involvement with the children. And there she is without any children, but she loves this man, so naturally she loves his children. So she begins to, play the role of the stepmother. But you have a little bit of this contentious history with this biological mom in the background who has her own kind of needs that, she's trying to take care of, in addition to moving on from this life of being Dwyane Wade's, wife. So the tension between nurturing the children and exploring, her own identity outside of the relationship while also respecting the boundaries of the biological mom, that is a very difficult line to walk for any woman. And Gabrielle seems to be doing it with such ease, with such beauty, with such softness, with such gentleness, which is very rare. Most women, when they marry a man who has children, they don't necessarily bring this kind of energy to the table. Gabrielle Union described the early resistance that she received from his side of the family, later on when discussing their relationship, because of the history, obviously, and with children being involved, she talked about that. But basically saying that ultimately they decided that unity was more important. They decided to strategize. They decided that they were going to embrace the fact that they were still growing. Even though it was difficult, she persisted. And over time, they built trust together. They built harmony together. They built reliability together. She also shared that being financially assertive definitely helped manage some of the discomfort in the relationship. You guys know that she's famous for talking about splitting everything 50-50 while keeping their finances separate and, making sure that the prenup was protective of both of them. She was very conscientious about being an independent individual in that marriage, especially coming from a divorce. So it looks like in spite of all the twists and turns, the two of them have been able to make the most of their connection, the most of their love, the most of their dedication, their loyalty. Every time I see them in pictures, they're always smiling. And you can always tell with couples whether the smile is like for the camera, whether it's genuine. And I've always felt that when they were together, they were smiling with their eyes, and which is how I know that their souls are content being together. So that is the history in terms of Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade's love relationship. Now let's dive into their astrology love reading together. Thanks to you guys that are tapping on the screen. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind sharing the live with some of your friends and family members that are into astrology. If you have questions about Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union's astrology chart reading, let me know. I can answer them for you, okay? 1 second. If you have questions about Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union's astrology chart reading, let me know. I can answer them for you, okay? 1 second. Right. So now let's get into their astrology natal chart. So Gabrielle Union is a Scorpio. Dwyane Wade is a Capricorn sun, okay? Gabrielle Union is a Leo moon. He is a Scorpio moon. She is a Scorpio Mercury. He is an Aquarius Mercury. She is a Virgo Venus. He is an Aquarius Venus. She is a Libra Mars. He is also a Libra Mars. Those of you who have been watching my lives, what does that tell you? We can't make any full conclusions until we get to the rest of the chart, but when you see that a couple shares the same Mars sign, what does that tell you? I'm going to wait for you guys to answer. Okay? Moving on to Jupiter. Her Jupiter is in Capricorn. His is in Scorpio. Her Saturn is in Gemini. His is in Libra. Her Uranus is in Libra. His is in Sagittarius. Her Neptune is in Sagittarius. His is in Sagittarius. Her Pluto is in Libra. His is in Libra. Her North Node is in Capricorn. His is in Cancer. Her Lilith is in Scorpio. His is in Sagittarius. And her Chiron is in Aries, while his is in Taurus. It looks like I have a flash goal from TikTok. I'm going to go ahead and add it here. So I'm looking for 3 hearts over the next 15 minutes. I hope that we'll be able to meet that goal together. Thank you, sweetheart, for joining. Thank you for being here. That's TikTok, girl. Thank you for being here. Hi, B. Thanks for joining. Hello. It's nice to see some names that I recognize. All right, so now let's get into compatibility. So if you and I were to do an astrology love reading compatibility, I wouldn't just leave it at what I'm sharing today. It would be a lot more in depth, but this is just to give you a general overview of how energies match together. I'm using these readings as an opportunity to really teach you what to look for, both in your astrology natal chart and the natal chart of the lovers that you're interested in, so that you can make sure that you're compatible and you can make sure that the energies between the two of you is really productive in terms of what it is and what you're seeking and what you're hoping to nurture in that love connection, okay? So Gabrielle Union is a Scorpio sun and he is a Capricorn sun. Scorpio and Capricorn in astrology are literal soulmates. So she met her soulmate when she met him. Now, meeting your soulmate, does that mean that it's going to be easy? Not always. Sometimes the journey is a little tough. Sometimes that love story is here to teach you some tough lessons. And as I say that, I'm jumping right to her North Node. Her North Node is in Capricorn. The North Node in astrology basically highlights for you your destiny. It shows you which direction you're supposed to be traveling if you're moving in the direction of your divine alignment. All of us came to Earth with a divine purpose. All of us came to Earth with a divine coding. There is a specific reason that we were given life on Earth. And if you're not sure what your life purpose is, look at your North Node. That's a great place to start because your North Node tells you what your destiny is. So her destiny is in Capricorn energy. And him having that at the sun means that he's the most equipped individual to teach her all the lessons that she needs to learn in her life in order for her to grow into the woman that she's supposed to become. Okay? Love Healing, thanks for joining. Hi, Amy Barra. Thank you for being here. Hi, Games. Thanks for joining. So when you're looking to date people, look to date people who have your North Node at their sun, moon, or rising. Dating someone with their North Node at their sun, moon, or rising ensures that they're going to give you the best opportunities for you to grow, for you to elevate, and for you to get your life in harmony with your divine purpose. It's not just about dating people to date them. It's also about that experience of dating, growing you, building you, developing your character, and allowing you to become this person that the universe, God, designed and had in mind when you were thought of. There is a specific purpose you're here to walk on this earth, and it's in your North Node. So when you date someone or marry someone who has that energy at the top of their chart, you're basically putting yourself in the position to get the most amount of knowledge from that individual. And that's exactly what Gabrielle Union did when she fell for Dwyane Wade. Now, moving on to their moon placement. The moon in astrology is about your emotional depth, your emotional capacity. It speaks to your emotional world. How much emotionality do you require in relationships to feel safe? Hi, B. Thanks for joining. Hi, Angie. Thanks for joining. So, Gabrielle Union having a Leo moon and Dwyane Wade having a Scorpio moon speaks to a little bit of tension here with regards to emotionality. While fire signs are traditionally, a source of excitement for Scorpio, Scorpio is, after all, a water sign. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars, right, which is fiery, but they're also ruled by Pluto. Scorpio is a water sign, so the intensity and also ruled by Pluto. Scorpio is a water sign, so the intensity and base the way that it would be for Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So there's a lot of tension here because the passion that Scorpio feels comes with emotional depth that Leo may not necessarily share. And Leo, unfortunately, is also a fixed sign like Scorpio. Whenever signs have the same modality at the same placement, it can be very challenging. A Leo moon is going to have a very challenging time getting a Scorpio moon to understand and validate their emotions and vice versa. Clearly, from them being, together for this long, obviously they've figured out how to make it work. They got married in 2014. We're in 2025 now. So obviously their relationship is working. But this is just to illustrate that it takes work whenever, the placements are not naturally compatible. So as an astrologer, I can tell that this is one area where they may be clashing a little bit more than, than other placements, because both of them are emotionally inflexible. When you have a fixed sign at the moon, these people tend to be very emotionally inflexible. Fixed moon signs, and that would be Taurus moon, Leo moon, Scorpio moon, as well as Aquarius moon. When these people feel something, that's just what it is. They're not very receptive to getting someone else to get them to feel something else. They're not very receptive to critically examining, like, their feelings and the legitimacy of their feelings. We all have feelings, but just because we feel something doesn't mean that that feeling is rooted in reality. Sometimes our emotions are just coming from a place of hurt, from past trauma, from childhood wounds, or from triggers. And depending on how much shadow work we've done, we may not be aware of where it's coming from. But when we get very attached to them and we're not willing to examine them, and we're not willing to consider another possibility as to why we're feeling what we're feeling and how to get to different emotions, it can be very difficult. So oftentimes fixed signs, when they feel something and they're in relationship with somebody, they want that person to feel what they feel. And oftentimes when their partner doesn't share the same emotional reality as them, they sadly interpret it as a rejection of them. So, as an example, if I'm a Leo moon and you're a Scorpio moon and we're in a relationship, if you feel something about a situation or about somebody, if I don't share that feeling, you're going to feel like I'm betraying you. Like I'm not standing by your side. I'm not being loyal to you. I don't have your back. When really it's that I feel something else and I'm not willing to give up what I feel to, absorb what you feel. Fixed signs have very strong emotional boundaries around their reality. And oftentimes that reality is non-negotiable. And that's how we run into issues sometimes with fixed signs, okay? Thank you, Seven, for liking the live. I appreciate it. If you guys wouldn't mind tapping on the screen to help Seven with the likes, just give me more hearts if you're enjoying this live. That would really mean a lot to me. We're currently at 189. I'm hoping we can get to 1,000 by the time we're done. But whatever you guys want to share with me, I'm more than grateful for any and all of it, okay? Thank you so much. Now moving on to Mercury. Mercury in Scorpio, Mercury in Aquarius. This is another similar setup that they have here. Mercury is a planet of communication. People that are fixed communicators are inflexible around communication, meaning that if they say something, that's what they meant, and they're not bashful about what they meant. Mercury in Aquarius in particular can come across a bit mean. Mercury in Scorpio can also come across a bit mean. And it doesn't mean that these people are mean. It's just they are very factual communicators, okay? Mercury in Aquarius in particular can communicate without any emotions whatsoever. Because to Aquarius, the facts are the facts. Whether you like the facts, whether you don't like the facts, if the facts feel good to you, they don't feel good to you. Mercury in Aquarius does not care how you feel about the facts, because Aquarius is deeply rooted in reality. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Uranus is not like Neptune. It's not dreamy at all. Uranus is progressive. Well, in order to be progressive, you have to know where you stand. So Mercury in Aquarius is very firm about what they stand, because they need to know where they stand to know where they're going, where they need to go. Oftentimes when this placement is in women, it's very difficult for the world to accept these women's voices. I believe Michelle Obama has this placement. I also believe that Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, has this placement of Mercury in Aquarius. People don't like listening to Mercury in Aquarius. People don't like hearing their voices. There's something about Mercury in Aquarius that really irritates people. There's too much truth in what they speak about and how they speak about it. It's only when Mercury in Aquarius gets quiet, that's when people start listening. So people don't like to hear Mercury in Aquarius speak until they get quiet. Because the thing about Aquarius is the thing that they share with you, it never makes sense in the moment. And I think that's part of the challenge. Aquarius is so future oriented and so progressive that oftentimes their communication sounds like, wah 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 wah. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, they're speaking English, they're speaking clearly, but people don't receive what they're saying. It's only when they stop talking and then move on to something else that people get it. It takes people a while to catch up to the things that Aquarius is talking about. So generally, Mercury in Aquarius is going to have trouble in general with relationships because the truths that they speak are too heavy. And most people don't really want the truth. Let's face it. People say they want the truth, but they don't. Most people want to be cuddled. Most people want to be affirmed. Most people want to feel valued. You know, when you're communicating with most people, they want you to use words that make them feel good. They want to feel good when they hear you speak. If the truth that you're speaking of doesn't make them feel good, then you become the villain because they don't like how what you're saying makes them feel. Okay? Unfortunately for him, with Mercury in Aquarius, you know, her having a Mercury in Scorpio, Scorpio is a water sign. So Scorpio is a sensitive zodiac sign. So while Scorpio and Aquarius tend to be very attracted to each other because they're both a very unusual, proudly weird of who they are energetically. These are, you know, these two signs are ruled by planets that don't spin like this, but rather spin like this. So Scorpio and Aquarius are both weird. They've always been weird their whole lives. Sun, moon, and rising, talk to them. They'll tell you. And there's nothing wrong with being weird. I love weirdness because it's real. You know, it's the cookie cutter stuff that I'm afraid of because it's like, how much are you faking the funk? Like, how much squeezing are you doing to yourself in order to be accepted? And if you're doing this much squeezing of yourself so other people can accept you, then I don't even know who I'm dealing with because you're not even a real human, you know? So I will always take the weird over the fake, over the pretending. But while Aquarius and Scorpio are both attracted to each other because they're both unique and they're both weird and they're both proud of who they are regardless of what other people think about them, oftentimes these two, because of their fixed nature, are not very receptive to one another or organically. And secondly, the truth of Aquarius is devoid of emotions, you know? Aquarius is not speaking their truth, you know, while keeping in mind how it's going to make you feel. And that's precisely the problem with Aquarius Mercury. And that's why people have issues with, you know, when Jada speaks about a marriage. Remember there was a while there where Jada was speaking about her marriage with her husband when she was on the book tour. People were like, oh my God, Jada, we need to know less about your marriage. Like, everything I know about your marriage is without my consent. Like, oh my God, I don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear these people speak. Humans do not like to hear Mercury and Aquarius speak because when Mercury and Aquarius speaks, they're telling you things about the future that you're not ready to accept in the present. So in the present, when Mercury and Aquarius is speaking, people reject them, but it's only in the future that people go, oh, we get what Jada was trying to say. Now we understand Jada. Now we understand that a lot of these Hollywood couples are faking it, trying to pretend like it's kumbaya and everybody's happy under the same roof. Meanwhile, everybody's living in separate homes because everyone's got busy schedules and you love the person, but you can't really, you know, be together up under each other. And then sometimes on your part, there's other things that pop up and you don't want to limit each other to it's like, it's making sense, but it makes sense later. But in the moment when Jada is speaking about it, people are like, well, what's the point of being married if you're going to be seeing other people? What's the point of being married if you're not going to... Because they don't want to let go of their comfort. They don't want to face reality. And that's what Mercury in Aquarius does. It brings you the truth. It brings you reality. You may not be ready for it. You may not like it. It may make you feel weird. You may judge it, but it is what it is. Same with Michelle Obama. It is what it is. Michelle's going to say what she thinks. You may love it. You may not love it. She's not going to change what she has to say because you don't like it. Because she's speaking from facts. This has been her experience. This is her life story. She's talking about the things that she knows, the things she's been through. You can't tell her that she's wrong because that's her perspective. And when she's sharing these things, she's not thinking about how you feel about it because your feelings don't change her reality. And this is the thing people don't understand about Aquarius. Your feelings do not change the reality. Okay, so when Mercury in Aquarius is speaking, Mercury and Scorpio may get in their feelings about what Mercury in Aquarius has to say, and that can create conflict in the relationship at times. Now, I don't necessarily know that this is what's going on in their relationship specifically. I'm just speaking about what that can look like whenever Mercury in Aquarius is in a relationship with a Mercury in Scorpio, okay? Moving on to Venus. Venus in Aquarius is his, and she has her Venus in Virgo. This is another area where it's going to be challenging because Venus in Virgo and Venus in Aquarius. First, let's talk about the good things, okay? Venus in Aquarius and Venus in Virgo are both idealistic. These are people that are very loving people, very generous people, very kind people. In fact, when God looked around all the zodiac signs and decided who he or she was going to assign the protection of the animals to, God looked long and hard and chose Virgo, Aquarius, and Sagittarius. So Venus in Virgo and Venus in Aquarius have a lot of things in common. They both love from a pure heart. They both want to improve situations. They both love seeing the good in other people. They both love getting involved to make things better than they were. Thank you for all my gifts and all my likes, Site 7. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. They both are devoted to the greater good. There is a innocence with this energy, Virgo and Aquarius, when they get together. There's also a lot of cerebral activity with these two because Aquarius is an intellectual and so is Virgo. These two are some of the smartest zodiac signs in all of astrology. So when you put that at the Venus placement, their ability to problem solve, their ability to communicate, their ability to support one another, their ability to look at life from a different perspective, all of that really is what makes them feel loved in that relationship. These two value very different things. With her having a Venus in Virgo, now I understand why she was willing to marry a man with that many children and why she was willing to forgive a man who cheated on her and conceived another child. Oftentimes, Venus and Virgo people come into relationships to serve. Okay? Same with Venus and Aquarius. It's a laborious job. You know, love is an act, love is a verb, but Venus and Virgo particularly will marry people that often struggle with health issues or other responsibilities that are not theirs innately. So when you have a Venus in Virgo, the likelihood that you're going to end up marrying somebody that has a chronic disease or chronic health disease or that has other external factors that add stress on them that you can help relieve is very high. In fact, Venus in Virgo people are very attracted to people that are struggling, very attracted to people who are having a hard time managing themselves, managing their lives, managing their schedules. As you know, Virgo is a healer, a helper. So a Virgo Venus is going to be attracted to a man who has a lot of responsibility on their plate and who needs a partner to assist them with managing all of that. So she's certainly married within that. Now, Venus in Aquarius is somebody that's going to marry someone that's very different from them. I'm actually surprised that he ended up marrying a black woman because honestly, this guy has a prototype for someone that would have just as easily ended up with a woman that's not black because, you know, he's got a lot of otherness in his chart. I can always tell when looking at people that are interested in marrying, you know, within other groups. But the fact that they're both black is beautiful. But what makes it other is that she is from Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, how many black girls do you know from Omaha, Nebraska that also happen to be in Hollywood? That's kind of an unusual life, right? I don't know. I didn't even know there were black people in Omaha, Nebraska. You know, I'm not trying to be funny, but you know, when I think of like black population in America, I certainly don't think of Omaha, Nebraska. So I think, and he's from Chicago. So I think there's definitely enough variability here in terms of diversity to keep this connection interesting because culturally they're both very different. Yes, they're both black, but Omaha, Nebraska black and Chicago, Illinois black are not the same black. Just like Houston, Texas black and, you know, the Bronx, New York black are not the same black. So yes, she's black, but he could have easily married a woman that's not black. But what he was looking for primarily is a woman that shares a unique culture, a woman that has a unique presentation. He's very fascinated with otherness. He likes people who come from a different background, who can bring a different point of view to his world. It's me. Thank you so much for liking the live. I appreciate it. Hi, Evelina. Thank you for liking the live. Hi, Roku's Bella. Thank you. Hi, Kessia. Thank you for joining. So Venus in Aquarius typically is that one zodiac sign that's going to marry somebody from another culture. You know, if you have to vote, take a vote on like who is the most willing person to marry someone outside of their race, it's going to be a Venus in Aquarius. More often than not, these people are marrying somebody outside of their culture. Okay, moving on to Mars. They both have their Mars in Libra. The beauty of that is that they both value fairness, they both value being diplomatic, they both value keeping balance and harmony in the relationship, and that certainly helps them keep the things afloat. You know, when they're running into issues, they're running into problems, they're able to put their heads together to problem solve and figure out how things are going to work. You know, he's able to recognize when he's gone too far, when he does things that erodes at the trust in the relationship, and she's able to recognize when she's being too controlling and she needs to loosen the reins so he can also feel comfortable in the partnership. What this really speaks to is just meeting your match. You know, they're each other's matches when it comes to being able to create, being able to problem solve, being able to collaborate, being able to reach a consensus. You know, there is a lot of fairness, a lot of willingness to be an open book when they're together, when they're trying to figure things out in their relationship. Moving on to Jupiter. He has his Jupiter in Scorpio and she has hers in Capricorn. So the lessons that these two are here to learn in terms of their love story requires that they stick to it. Hi, Lulu Cubes. Thanks for joining. You know, there are lots of lessons here that these two are here to learn about having grit, having determination, seeing things through, being committed, not being willing to give up just because the going gets tough. And as you notice, they've had quite a few tough goings, because even right from the very beginning when she met him, he was just coming out of a divorce. And that divorce, yeah, may have been finalized, but it wasn't settled. You know, she met him during a time of upheaval, emotional upheaval in his life. And she had to be willing to overlook this brief moment of discomfort and ride that wave, knowing that they were going to get to higher grounds. They were going to get to something more stable. She trusted it, and he did too. And this is what makes Scorpio and Capricorn soulmates in astrology, is because these two are two of the most dedicated zodiac signs, the most loyal, the most committed, the most hardworking. So Jupiter is the planet of luck, the planet of abundance. If you want to know what energy you need to bring to your life to have more luck and abundance in your life, you go to Jupiter. Jupiter basically tells you what is it that you need to master in order to invite abundance, manifestations, and success into your life, growth. And for her, it was the ability to weather the storm, the ability to stick it out when the going gets tough, the ability to have grit. Grit is not about comfort. It's about doing it when you're uncomfortable. It's about doing it when you want to quit. It's about doing it when you've got nothing left. It's about keeping focus on your vision, on your future, on what you want to achieve down the line, and being willing to put in the work so that you can get it down the line. It's not about immediate pleasure. It's not about immediate gratification. It's not about anything soft or cushy. It's about doing the hard thing, even when you feel like quitting. And this relationship, I'm sure, has tested every ounce of her heart, her mind, her soul, her spirit. And through it all, she did not give it up. And this is why she's being rewarded with the joy that she's enjoying now. Same with him. Scorpio at Jupiter is somebody who needs to have a refined take and perspective about what they're after. So that means focus. That means less is more. That means quality over quantity. So yes, he can be a young man that's out there, you know, sowing his wild oats and having a good time with a lot of women. Or he could bring all of that energy to one woman who already is helping to raise his children, and that can build expand their family together. And clearly he chose the latter. The beautiful thing about this energy of Scorpio and Capricorn is that when they are committed, there is no stopping them. They both are determined to succeed. They both have drive. They both have grit. That, like Capricorn is disciplined, Capricorn is pragmatic, Capricorn is steadfast, and Scorpio is emotionally intense, Scorpio is emotionally committed, Scorpio is emotionally deep. So when a Scorpio and a Capricorn come together, it's intense. There's a strong commitment here. There's a strong pull here to do right by each other and to continue to build something long lasting, because both of them are very interested in resilience. They're both very serious. And these two thrive in emotional chaos. That's another thing. When life throws, complexities their way, these two are very good at being stubborn, very good at taking control of the situation, very good at, locking in and balancing each other out so they can see one another through all of these difficulties. Moving on to Saturn. Saturn is the planet of karma in astrology. Saturn is also the teacher. He's here to learn what it's like to be a leader when it comes to how we do love and how we do it fairly and how we do it in partnership. And she's here to learn what it's like to be a good communicator and to express her feelings and to learn that words have power and they have meaning. And words can make and break relationships. And for him, treating others how you want to be treated in partnership is a major lesson that he's had to learn. And this is why, honestly, spiritually speaking, this is why he ended up with that child. Because most people, when they take a break from their spouse or their relationship, they don't end up with a baby. If the universe, God, whatever you want to believe in, allowed you to get pregnant when you were just taking a break from your main girl, while you were going through a little, moment, that's an indication. That's a serious spiritual step to teach you something about the importance of, wrapping it up if you don't want to have a child. You know what I mean? So Scorpio is the ruler of life and death in astrology. So Scorpio men tend to have a lot of children for this reason. So him being a Scorpio moon, of course he's going to end up with a baby when he's just trying to have a good time while he's going through a break with this girl. So that right there, that Saturn in Libra was really about like the importance of fairness in relationship with that other woman he was seeing during that break. The importance of fairness with the relationship with his main girl, Gabrielle, and the importance of fairness with that baby that was created as a result of that break. So there's a lot here to learn about balance, about harmony, and about, treating others as we would want to be treated, okay? Moving on to Uranus. Uranus is the planet of progress. If you want to know what you're supposed to be working on in terms of like your development, your self-development, you go to Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. So for him is telling the truth, speaking the truth and speaking his truth. Obviously he did that. I'm sure it must have been very difficult to have to come back to the girl that you love to tell her that while you were on a break that you had a fling with somebody and out of that fling came out a child. Like, that's not an easy conversation to have. Most men will avoid that as much as they can until they can't avoid it anymore. But he did that, and that was his journey. That was designed. That was ordained spiritually so that he can learn his power of creation, and he can learn the responsibility of balancing out his desires and his urges with his actual like physical, tangible, real life responsibilities. That's really what this was about, and he did that. And for her Uranus is in Libra. So again, partnership is being highlighted here. When you're in partnership with somebody, you don't throw away the partnership because something went wrong. Okay? Because things are going to go wrong in partnership. That's the point. Because no one is perfect. If you want to be in partnership, if you want to be in relationship, you have to understand that perfection is not an option. Like, it shouldn't even be a part of the equation. You're never going to meet a person, a friend, a child, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father. It doesn't matter. You're never going to meet another human being that you're in relationship with who's going to be a perfect human being. It's not possible. You're never going to be in a relationship that doesn't have problems. It's not possible. It's me said I'm a Cancer, and him, he's a Pisces. Oh, so you get it. Yeah, partnership. Libra represents partnership in astrology because Libra rules over relationships. And the message of Libra is that you have to take the good with the bad. You can't just take the good, and when the bad comes, you want to act like you weren't just enjoying the good. Some of you are never going to be happy in relationships because you don't understand this concept that in all relationships, there's good and there's bad. In all of them. Because in all of us, there's good and there's bad. I'm not a perfect person. You're not a perfect person. So what makes you think that if me and you come together in partnership, we're going to have a perfect relationship? Where does that idea come from? Outside of Hollywood movies, where else does that come from? Like, make it make sense. Make the math. It's never going to math. Because two imperfect people cannot have a perfect relationship. And for many of you, you define a perfect relationship as a relationship with no problems. And that's fundamentally the issue. Because a perfect relationship is a relationship with problems and solutions. A perfect relationship is a relationship with problems and solutions, meaning people are willing to work together to find solutions to problems for the sake of the relationship. People are willing to do every and anything that is humanly possible for them to preserve the relationship, as long as the relationship obviously is not abusive. I'm not saying you should put up with any and everything. I'm not saying abuse is on the table. I'm talking about within the normal circumstances of relationship. Relationships are going to have problems because people are full of problems when they're by themselves. Getting married is not going to fix the issues that you have with yourself. If anything, it's going to highlight them. Having a child is not going to fix the issues that you have with yourself. If anything, it's going to expose them. All of our relationships expose our woundedness. That's it. That's the message. All of our relationships are a training ground for us to learn the ways in which we still have work to do on ourselves. And for many people, they cannot be successful in relationships because they don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. But the problem is when you get in relationship, that person gets to look at you in the mirror. So they can't miss your reflection. So when you're behaving in certain ways that don't align with what you're saying, when what you're saying and what you're doing is not matching, they're going to bring that up to your attention because they want you to know this is what's going on. And for many of you, you're so stuck in your ego, in your pride, in your cockiness, that you're unable to self-reflect. You're unable to receive the feedback. And you're, more importantly, unwilling to do the work that you need to do on yourself so you can become a better version of yourself, one that makes your partner feel more comfortable, more safe, more loved, more comforted, more protected, more cared for. All of that takes work. It's not magic. This is why, this is just side note, as a lesbian, I resent this idea of the quick courtship that lesbians tend to have. Lesbians love to get in relationship and overnight they think they're just gonna magically curate the perfect relationship that doesn't have problems. They just met yesterday and a week later they're moving in together. They don't can we slow down? Can we slow down and learn ourselves? Can we slow down and learn each other? That relationship is not gonna fix all your problems. You know who's gonna fix your problems? You. But if you're unwilling to do that when you're by yourself, why would you be doing that when you're together? Because now when you're together, you also have to deal with the embarrassment of the other seeing that you have these flaws. That things aren't as tight as it appeared. The seams are a little loose on the garment. When we're not in partnership, we can hide the seams. But when you're in partnership, people can see. Someone else can see. Someone else can critique. Someone else can give feedback. And that's where humility comes in. Humility allows you to receive the information, and wisdom allows you to transform that information into behavior, into action, an action that actually elevates your functioning, your status, your vibration, your maturity level. You have to be willing to transform for the sake of the relationship. And that's what Dwyane Wade had to do. Granted, there is a bit of an age difference between them, so she was a lot more mature, and especially because she's the female. You know, because girls tend to be more mature than guys. The other thing is Neptune. They have the same Neptune placement, which again is in Sagittarius. You know, before her, he really struggled with being authentically himself and standing in his truth. She really helped him embrace his true self. You see, Capricorn at the sun can be very preoccupied with how other people perceive them. Capricorn, because they rule the 10th house, which is the house of public image, is very obsessed with how people see them. When they're unhealed, underdeveloped, they take it to the extreme. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned with your public perception. Obviously, we're social creatures who live in social groups. We want to get along. We want to make a good impression on one another. We want to be kind. We want to be, well received and perceived by one another. However, the issue is that sometimes Capricorn will avoid dealing with their real selves in favor of the self that they want other people to see. A Capricorn that is unevolved is too busy playing the role of whatever the ideal version of whatever it is they're representing, then they are actually being real. So back to the story at the beginning of the relationship, he was married. He had several children. We didn't know how dysfunctional things were on the home front because unfortunately he was married to someone that struggled with her own health issues, allegedly mental health issues, and her own, emotional instability. As a Capricorn, he probably saw it as his duty to protect her and obviously the mother of his child. So the public didn't know this was going on. It's not until when they got divorced that we realized all of the pressure that he'd been dealing with inside the house. This is not information that was out. So Capricorn is very good at playing the role to keep up certain appearances. So what he looked like before Gabrielle came in the picture is that he was very religious. Came from a very religious background. Got married very young. Had several children at a very young age. But obviously the marriage was not stable because of all these other issues. And during the course of getting to know her, we learned that he was also very free, in terms of exploring his body, his sexuality, But that's not something that he publicized. It's something that was kept under wraps. And I'm not necessarily saying that he should have publicized it. What I'm saying is that she assisted him in becoming more open. Because a lot of times Scorpio moon, they have a lot of shame associated with childhood trauma, oftentimes around issues regarding sexuality that they've never dealt with. Him having that at the 5th degree speaks to, speaks to publicity around sexuality. So him ending up having a break baby that was talked about publicly really fits that profile, because the 5th degree in astrology is a Leo degree. So that means that was gonna come out either way. When you have Scorpio moon, you can't just have a fling with somebody, especially at the 5th degree, and think that it's just gonna stay over there, because Leo represents the sun. Wherever you have Leo in your chart, that's the part of your life that will always get exposed, because you can't hide the sun. You can't hide the sun. And it's also the part of your life that people get very curious about. People get very nosy about. For Gabrielle, it's her emotions. People want to know what she's feeling. People may even do things on purpose to trigger an emotional reaction out of her because they can't tell what she's feeling. And they want to control her by, finding out what she's feeling. Wherever you have Leo, people will find out about you. You cannot hide it. You cannot hide it because you cannot hide the sun. So that's how that break baby happened. It was to teach him about that power that he carries. And in that process, he learned that he needed to be more honest with himself. Like, he didn't have to be a goody two-shoes, you know, he didn't have to perform this role of being this, like, super religious guy, you know, like this perfect Christian guy. He could just be himself. Now, moving on to Pluto. Pluto is a planet of transformation, so they both came into each other's lives to transform their perception of how to do partnership, how to do relationship, because they both have that in Libra. So they were bound to teach each other some very tough lessons about relationship, about partnership, about marriage. And it sounds like they're doing that. Now, his North Node is in Cancer and hers is in Capricorn. Cancer and Capricorn are sister signs in astrology. When they do their healing, these two are highly complementary, because Capricorn is the father of the zodiac and Cancer is the mother. So together, they're able to keep their lives organized, deeply rooted in love, commitment, dignity, protection, and dedication. They've been such an icon in the community for the way they've sheltered their trans daughter, the way they've protected their entire family, the way they've weathered the storm of the difficulties of their marriage. And I suspect a lot of that came from dealing with their Lilith. You know, with his Lilith in Sagittarius, he had to get over a lot of the religious stuff that he was raised in, and how that was basically keeping him from being honest with themselves about who he is and what he wants and what he feels. So once he put that where that belonged, he was more free. Now he's more free. And for her, she had to deal with a lot of her childhood trauma around, like, you know, trauma, like, you know, she's publicly talked about her sexual trauma. You know, she's dealt with other sources of trauma too, because Lilith in Scorpio is an energy that people like to dominate. Her growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure she dealt with a lot of trauma too, because Lilith in Scorpio is an energy that people like to dominate. Her growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure she dealt with a lot of. It looks like our time is almost up, but let's go ahead and wrap up with Lilith and Chiron. Her growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure she's had a lot of issues that she's had to deal with around her self-image, around her, you know, racism, around her beauty. When I look at that woman, she looks stunning to me, and I'm sure she knows she's stunning, but when she was growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure she didn't know that she was stunning. Because again, I don't think there's probably a lot of black people in Omaha, Nebraska. It's not like Houston, Texas, or Dallas, Texas, or, you know, you get my drift. You know, there's some parts of the country where there's lots of black people, and when you're black, you get to see a lot of black people, and you understand that you're very beautiful. Like Idris Elba, growing up in the UK, like recently did an interview where he said he didn't realize he was attractive until he came to America. It's that kind of thing. When you're in an environment where there aren't a lot of black people, you don't understand how truly beautiful you are. When you're in an environment where there are lots of black people, that gets echoed to you in that environment. So Omaha, Nebraska is probably not the most supportive place for a young black girl that's trying to, like, get her self-esteem together. So she's had to work through a lot of that. And the more she worked on that, the more powerful and confident she felt, and the more she could demand the truth from him, and the more he worked on his relationship with spirituality and how that was really keeping him controlled, and, you know, established his own relationship with spirituality and with faith that felt more accepting, more loving, more freeing, the more he could also be more honest with her and more supportive. So it's like a beautiful yin-yang between them in terms of, like, energies, supportive, healing energies, okay? Now, finishing off with Chiron. Chiron in astrology is our deepest wound. It's the area where we're the most wounded. It's what we must heal about ourselves to really get on our healing journey. For her, it's in Aries. She needed to heal her relationship with leadership, her relationship with taking initiative, her relationship with being driven, you know, having a big ego, taking space, demanding things, being a leader, being a boss. This is really what she was called to do in this life. You know, I'm so glad she started her own business outside of acting, you know. She's here to be a boss lady. She's here to own her own business and to be in charge of herself, not just financially, emotionally, and to be able to create her own story. This very unusual love story that she has with Dwyane Wade is because she stepped into her Chiron and Aries energy. She's no longer in her people-pleasing era. You know, she's no longer trying to be approved of by other people. She's no longer trying to get other people to co-sign her life choices. She does what she wants based on what resonates with her, based on what feels true to her. A lot of people, you know, have a lot to say about Gabrielle because she's different. You know, like her even saying like it's going to be 50-50. They're like, "Oh my God, girl, you're married to a basketball player who's a multi whatever. He's a millionaire. Like, why do you need to go 50-50 with a millionaire?" And she's like, "It's not about him being a millionaire. It's about me being independent," which is Aries energy. When an Aries is truly healed, Chiron in Aries, they want their own stuff. They want to separate their stuff from other people's stuff. They want their independence. So even when they're in relationship, they still want to maintain a sense of independence, you know, which makes sense, especially sorry guys, from time to time it looks like I have to touch the screen because it's saying that, you know, the live is inactive, so it was trying to kick us out. So that's kind of what happened. I was attending to it. This is something I need to get in the habit of doing. I'm not very good at it, but I will be working on it from now on. So from time to time I need to touch the screen so that I can let them know that I'm here and it's not just on and while I'm, I don't know, washing dishes or something. So yeah, so Aries Chiron needs to really heal, you know, their wound around self-assertion. Like, you have the right to demand things. You have the right to say how it's going to go. You have the right to impose your desires and your restrictions on others. Clearly, she's mastered that. His Chiron is in Taurus. Chiron Taurus is here to work on stability. They're here to work on their home life. They're here to work on creating a life that feels safe, comfortable, dependable, predictable. And that comes with having a circle around you that is stable. That comes with having a career that feels stable. That comes with having a relationship that feels stable. So basically, Chiron and Taurus people didn't have a lot of stability in their home life. So it's upon them to create it. A lot of Chiron and Taurus really struggle around like being comfortable with money. Many of them grew up with a lot of scarcity. So it's like a discomfort with like wealth, with money, with riches. There's a discomfort with like abundance, being affluent. Many of them struggle with that. When a Chiron and Taurus is healed, they become more proactive about money management. They become proactive about protecting their stability, protecting their boundaries, are very devoted to their home, their family, and they're protective of their family. Chiron and Taurus is here to kind of define security and stability for themselves away from the lessons that they learned from their home life and create a security and stability that feels true to them. And it sounds like both he and Gabrielle have successfully done that. There's so much more I could say about this couple in terms of astrology, but this is just a general overview of their placements. Do you guys have any questions about this astrology reading on Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade that I just completed? Hi, Holly. Thanks for coming to hang out. Thank you for being here. It's me. Thank you for liking the live. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate all the likes that you've given me. And thank you, Seven, for all the likes, for all the gifts. I appreciate your support as well. Thanks to all of you who've liked the live. Thanks to all of the gifts that you've given me. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for coming to hang out. For those of you who are new here, I go live on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Central Time. So that's 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can come and hang out with me so we can talk astrology. On Sundays, I talk love, astrology and love. So I do an astrology love reading, like the one I just did on Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade's love reading. But the other 2 days, I answer astrology-related questions. Lately, I've been talking about Chiron in astrology. And you can ask me other astrology-related questions, and I'll answer them. So Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays for your free astrology report. Now, if you would like to schedule a reading with me, link in bio to do that at intuitivehealing.com. I have a lot of free content on YouTube. You can go to Intuitive Healing. I have over 1,600 videos on astrology. I am a bit obsessed. It's my special interest. So you can go to Styled Under Virgo for astrology and healing. Holistic healing. You can go to Styled Under Libra for astrology and love. Intuitive Healing is my main astrology channel. And I also do horoscope readings every time we have a new moon or a full moon in astrology. You can listen to my horoscope podcast. It's called the Aquarius Podcast on Spotify. And there's also a comparative YouTube channel that goes along with that. called The Aquarius Podcast on YouTube. So please go and subscribe to all my channels so you have access to all the content that I produce. You know, I'm not on here on TikTok as much as I am on these other platforms, so feel free to stay connected with me there as well. All right? So I'll look forward to catching up with you on Wednesday. I'll see you at 5 p.m. New York time, which is 4 p.m. Central time. You have a wonderful evening, and I hope that love finds you. Take care. Bye-bye. You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.